Hello. This is a short video to introduce some aspects of note processing. Depending upon your situation, you may be writing music or engraving your scores after writing them on paper. I'm not going to be talking about composing directly into a DAW, such as Cubase, even though for many film music scores you may be doing a mixture of DAW and scored composition. You will most certainly be using notation software to create snippets of music for essays and other teaching materials. So I'm going to look at two musical examples which I have simply copied into a number of different notation software. The four programs used were Sibelius, Dorico, MuseScore and Lilypond, with Frescobaldi as a front end. I expect very few to engage with this last example, but it serves to demonstrate the difference between a what you see is what you get software and a text-based renderer. This video is not going to be a how-to either, particularly as these four pieces of software are huge and extremely complex. As with all the software you will use at Sheffield, you can take a surface level approach and then go in deep. And there are plenty of examples on the internet that help you work in conjunction with the manual. It's a process that may take years, but expect to use a variety of software throughout your training. With that in mind, there are plenty of YouTube instruction videos from Steinberg with regular updates and live sessions, and for other software. The university has access to LinkedIn Learning, and you will see a playlist of video courses which you will have access to. You'll need to learn software, but that's not why we're here. I think you can learn a great deal by comparing these tools and by figuring out how you can make these tools do your musical bidding. What I want to try to do, is introduce you to the kind of questions you need to ask to find solutions to musical problems when writing notes into these programs. I'm not an expert, but this is how I went about writing these examples. And this means you need to have a basic understanding of some musical terminology, and of course you will gain additional understanding over the course of your training. Firstly, let's look at the two pieces of music I have copied and try to pinpoint some of the obstacles that will arise. The first musical example is a piece of classical music, String Quartet Opus 18 No. 1 by Beethoven. And the task is to write two lines pretty much as shown in the video. I have not bothered to replicate the page number and the word anhang, so from there we are going to need to do the following. Set a score for a string quartet, two violins, viola and cello. Although we are copying, now is the time, if you haven't already, to get a quick grasp of the clefs involved. The diagram here shows how the alto clef sits between the treble and bass clefs. The first tip I'd recommend, and after years of saying work it from the ground up, I've realised there simply isn't time, is use a preset, or at least use a preset as a starting point for your own work. In most cases there is a pre-built ensemble called String Quartet. Looking at the left hand side of the original, you'll note the names of the instruments on the first line only, so you may need to delete short names from further systems. I know this may seem basic, but a staff or stave is one line. A system is a group of staves, and these are often bracketed. One of my most annoying learning experiences through this process was page layout, which was most complicated in Dorico. That said, Dorico asks that you go about pretty much all processes in a formal way. There are no real shortcuts. With other programs, I could write the title, do a carriage return, change font size, write the next line, etc. You'll need to consider the space between staves and systems. Looking at the first bar of the Beethoven and the first violin, we have simple note entry, crotchets, quavers and semiquavers. It's worth knowing that these are quarter, eighth and 16th notes. That's the American terminology. We have a dynamic attached to the first note, a tie between the first two notes. Dorico was particularly unhelpful here, but has a forced duration button which allowed me to keep the quarter and eighth notes. A slur over the first two beats and two staccato dots on the final quavers. Note here the similarity across the score. Do one line in full, then copy and paste. Most programs will carry the articulations, the staccato dots, and dynamics, pianoforte, etc., from line to line. I'm assuming these basic terms, piano, forte, are known. If not, please see me and we'll get you access to some basic theory manuals. Note entry can be achieved through using MIDI keyboards, the QWERTY keyboard, and by dragging notes one by one onto the stave. MuseScore has a graphic keyboard, which is quite useful. So again, a knowledge of where notes are on the piano, even if you don't play the piano, is extremely useful. Then we come to the attention to detail. Note in bar 9, bar 14, dynamics are in parentheses. There's also a staccato dot in bar 4, viola, that's in a parenthesis, but we'll not worry about that. Then there's the issue, difficult in most software, of getting the music on 2 lines on the page, as per the example, with 8 bars on the first system and 10 bars on the second. The second music example is Steve Reich's clapping music. Although this graphic is not the original score, as evidenced by the stems up mistake in the penultimate bar, it serves as a good copy from which to ask new questions. These are instrumentation. We need 2 single-line percussion clef staves. Title and composer, easy to do. The top line just repeats for 13 bars. The bottom line circles through the pattern, quaver by quaver. The easiest way to enter this quickly is to just do it by hand. This example then gives you a very good introduction to repeat bars. And finally, setting a tempo marking and adding text thereafter, potentially 2 separate actions. In looking for the correct staff type, you'll find the correct places for many different instruments, including, of course, guitar tap. Another issue you'll come up against here is for the clap 2 stave is beaming. You'll need to know how to break and join beams. Beams are the lines that join notes together in groups. Thank you for listening to this brief introductory video. In the future, I'll be going through these pieces of software using the Beethoven and the Reich as examples. But please try to have a go at emulating these 2 examples. Thank you.